In this video, we'll learn how to create a drop-down column in Loocey and go over the settings and options of drop-down columns. There are two ways to create a column in Loocey. We can either open the context menu of an existing column and click on Add Column to right, or we can also click on the plus sign at the end of the table and select Drop-down. The difference is with plus sign it'll already select the column type for us. With the first option, we'll need to select the column type from the drop-down. We can enter the display name and click on Add if we want to use the default options. By default, this creates a single select drop-down, where we can click a cell and choose one value from a list. Let's add a few basic options, for example, To Do, In Progress, and Done. We can now click each cell and select a drop-down value. It will function as a standard drop-down field. Now, let's customize the visual appearance. We can go back and edit the options, assigning custom background and text colors to each option. Once we save the changes, you'll see that each drop-down option appears with its own color styling, making it visually distinct and easier to scan in the table. Drop-down options are also reorderable. We can drag and drop to change the order in which they appear in the options list. The updated order will be reflected in the drop-down options immediately. We can also add tooltips for individual options. This is useful when you want to provide extra context or guidance for a specific selection. Only options with a defined tooltip will display the tooltip on hover. Now let's explore another important drop-down configuration, value type. This controls how the data behind each option is stored. Let's go through each one quickly. First, there's integer. If we create a column called priority and add options like low, medium, and high, we can assign them values 1, 2, and 3. This is perfect when we want to sort or filter by logic, for example, highest to lowest priority. Next is string. This stores the exact label as text. For instance, if we create a status column with open, in progress, and closed, what we see is exactly what gets saved. It's ideal when we want human-readable values or need to sync with another system that expects specific strings. Now let's try GUID, which is the default. Each option here is stored with a unique internal ID, so even if we rename To Do to Not Started, the backend value stays consistent. This is great when stability matters, but we still want to freely change labels later. And finally, big integer, similar to integer, but designed for very large numbers. Again, this is needed for more technical integrations where the stored values for a given type need to be big integers. Let's look at some of the other options while adding columns. The following examples will be for string column, but the options work the same way for other types as well. You can set a default value for a string column so that it's used for all new rows created in this list. For example, if you want every new row to start with a specific label like new entry, you can enter that here. This way, each time you create a new row, the string column will automatically be filled with that unless you change it manually. Next, the required option, just like the name implies, makes a column a required field when creating or updating records. By default, the name column is required. If we want to mark the string column as required, we'll also need to set a default value. This ensures the column always has a valid entry when new records are created. If we mark another column, in this case, string, as required, the add item input box will change into a button link. Then, when we click on either the add item link or the new button at the top, the system will open a dialog showing all required column inputs. Let's add another record and enter the values for the required columns in the dialog, then click on Create. The record will be added along with the values for all the required columns. This design of keeping track of required columns helps keep our table consistent and prevents invalid data entries. The isNull flag is a somewhat technical term, which simply means that if no default value is entered, this column will allow nulls instead of a value. Again, this is a database term, and it's okay if you leave it the default. Note that when we switch off the isNull option, the default value field will become required, as now the column requires a default value. This is because if you already have data in your list and if you turn off the null option, this column will need to be populated with another value, otherwise, we would get an error in the database. That's it for today. Be sure to subscribe to our channel to be notified when we release new tutorials. Thanks for watching and see you next time.